I just wanted you to know that you're joining a group of over 100 volunteers in Ashland who've chosen to do something about the people in our community who have been left out in the cold were it not for you. So thank you for showing up tonight and for volunteering for this important work. This shelter program is completely run by volunteers. We have no umbrella organization, although we have many sponsoring groups that help make this happen. Concerned citizens, faith groups, social service groups, students, and just wanted to say it's important work to make sure that people have a safe, warm place to sleep. Each year the program grows and develops, and we're getting a lot better at doing this. We learned a lot from all the shelter trainings we provided in the years past. This year we decided to do a real intro-level volunteer shelter training. And this is just to give you the basics, and we hope that you leave here with all the information you need to be successful and feel comfortable and safe in a volunteer role in the shelter. How to welcome guests to the shelter.
Well, gosh, Sharon, thank you so much for inviting me. One of the most important things people want to know is that you've recognized them. Hi, Bruce, good to see you. Trinity, how's things going at your new place? You getting the new building going? Awesome. So they want to know that you recognize them. They want to know that you see something about them. They want to know that you see something special in them. And what you're going to do is you're going to present an opportunity for people to come and feel like that. You're going to present an opportunity for people to come and feel like you've invited them into their home. Like, you're here, this is where you live, come on in, sit down, make yourself comfortable. There's something here to eat. And more than something here to eat, and more than a place to sleep, there's magic. And the magic happens when one person recognizes the other person as a person. When one person recognizes the wholeness in that person and greets it. So when you do that, and I don't know how it happens, and Peter will teach you about it. For me, it's a whole lot like this. At the end of the day, I take the change that's in my pocket, and I put it in a jar, and I couldn't buy a candy bar with it. I couldn't buy a piece of gum with it, right? And yet, we took the money out just the other day, and there's enough for my partner, Beert, and I to go to a dinner and a movie, and maybe even pay for part of the night in a motel. So now, every time you see somebody there and you greet them, every time you recognize that person, every time you greet them again, every time you invite them in as a friend, you're contributing to their ability. You're helping that person become who he or she can be. So that's really important. Now, the other important is you got to make space for them. You got to make room for them. And if you do this on a really nice basis, what happens is you also set the tone for who it is that's going to be here. Who it is that you're going to be able to greet and take care of. Because everybody's going to respond to who you are. And every time you do that, you can just imagine at the end of the day that maybe you've put a whole lot of change into that jar and made a big difference to many people in this world. Thank you.
Oh, a typical night at the shelter. Pioneer Hall, I guess I'd just start by saying every night's actually different. There's a different group of people, there's a different dynamic. But the consistent pieces are this. The 7:30 is when we open the doors. The guests are instructed not to arrive prior to 7:30. However, in cold rain, often they're huddled on the porch prior to us getting there. Pioneer Hall has a little lockbox. The shelter hosts have the code. We open the key, take the key out, we open the door. We're currently not allowed to store our supplies there, so we usually can very conveniently located have our supply trailer full of the blankets and pads that we haul in. So the first 15 to 20 minutes are the most chaotic part of it. There's a massive humanity all coming to the door, getting their spots, but everyone's generally very respectful. The blankets, pads get distributed, and people sign in, and we start the evening. That after the dust settles, we don't prepare food there, but food is brought in. There's usually some snacks and a light meal that's served. and that's done roughly by about 8:30. We do have good fortune, as I think all the locations do. In addition to the overnight shelter house, we have kitchen support is a great word. But Mitzi's not here, I don't think. Mitzi is a force of nature. She shows up every Tuesday and Thursday night, and she anchors that kitchen. She did tell me that she has a cast, and she might have a couple of weeks at the beginning of the year that we're going to be missing Mitzi, and we will miss her. But there's opportunity to plug in. It's making coffee, serving coffee, helping serve food. And helping with the cleanup in the kitchen and make sure it's all in good shape. So things calm down as every minute passes, especially when people have a little warm tea or coffee and some food. The energy settles down. By 8:30 or so, half the room's almost asleep, I'd say, already. Even with the lights on and people chattering and gabbing, they're just that exhausted. They've been out in the streets in the cold, burning calories they probably don't even have. So they're exhausted carrying a 40-pound bag around, and they're ready to go to sleep in most cases. Those who are still awake, we do a little bit of a last call type of thing. If you need to have a cigarette, go outside, have your cigarette, and get yourself ready to be quiet. And we're this year going to be working at 9 o'clock is kind of the quiet time to get people just settled down. 9:30 is when we're targeting lights out, lock the door, nobody else in or out, basically. So that's the gist of that. Lights out, the hosts stay up. I do most of my reading at night. I bring, as a host, you want to bring a light, a little light, and a cell phone is the other thing you have with you, so you can entertain yourself that way as well. But we stay awake. One of us is typically always awake, but to me, that's where the magic is. It's 40 people in 8-part harmony snoring. But it's just, that's what they're there for. We're there to get people rested, to help them maintain their well-being. And without sleep and nutrition, every one of us could go squirrely. So it's really, really important that we're getting a good solid night's sleep. At about 6:15, the little action starts happening in the kitchen. Coffee's ready. People are slowly waking up. By 7 o'clock, pretty much everybody's cage is rattled because everybody has to be out the door by 7:30 a.m. except the volunteers. The volunteers get an extra half hour, and that's when the real fun begins, because that's a half hour of at least 2 of us, hopefully more, sweeping, cleaning the bathrooms, mopping, making sure the kitchen is clean, and it all has to happen basically within a half hour, because that's when our time expires. Is 8 o'clock, everybody is gone, doors are locked, and I race out the door to get my kids to school. So that is, I think the table chair setup is one thing I missed, and that happens right at the beginning of the evening. There's tables and chairs. The guests often help bring in the pads and the blankets from the trailer, so often that doesn't even fall on us. One of us kind of navigates the trailer and opens it up, and there's a little brigade. And then there's always a crew of people that throw up a couple of tables and get the chairs set up so people have a place to sit and hang out and consult. Thank you for that reminder. That's generally what it looks like. I don't know if anyone has questions for me. Or you want to do questions at the end of the night, or did you?
I think we're doing okay. I was actually just going to ask, because Pioneer Hall's Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, and I know Trinity and Presbyterian might have a couple of things they do differently. If you guys want to say a word about how Trinity, because you have people that do soup, or do you want to say anything different?
It mirrors very much so what John has going on there. We do have people who sign up to bring food that night, and then there are people who drop off food for the next morning as well.
Right.
So it's pretty good. To a person, everyone is exhausted and cold, and it quiets down pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I agree.
And Monday night, you guys have Nothing to add. Okay, so one of the things that we do as coordinators is we meet once a month. We've already met several times, those of us who sponsor a night and are regularly there. And I would encourage any of you who can to be there regularly. If you can do it more than once a month, it's very helpful, and you get a little more of a routine. It's much easier. You get to know people, and it just makes it a lot better for everybody. We meet once a month, and we talk about how we can make the program run more consistently. We do the best we can, but the spaces are different and things happen a little bit differently Monday night, Wednesday night, and Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. But we do feel that consistency is one of the best things we can provide for our guests. So that said, there's some other discipline things that happen, and Bob had what did it say? The one rule we're going to go over this year as coordinators. It's hard to say you can't do this, you can't do that, but the one thing that we all really loved.
You can hold it up.
Okay, go ahead. You want to say it?
No, sure.
So it just says, if you are in any way disruptive, you will be asked to leave the shelter. That's very simply, and someone today, we were visiting with someone today, and we were explaining, yeah, if we did have a situation, we would go over to the person and ask them, can you be quiet? And sometimes they can't, and they'll just excuse themselves. And it happens that easily most of the time. So this is the one thing that we try and do, is we try and provide a safe, quiet place for people to sleep, and anyone who disrupts that will be asked to leave. And it happens pretty easily. So, and the last thing I just wanted to say is we've been doing this long enough, and as I said, we keep getting better and better, and so we have some printed shelter guidelines that get posted. When the guests come and sign in, what they're signing in, they're agreeing to follow these guidelines about rules of conduct and behavior. And they all sign it, and they sign it every night they come in. So just to rest assured, we do run a pretty tight ship. There's some camaraderie, there's a lot of community, there's a lot of gratitude, but people are really there to get a good night's sleep. And as John said, without that, you go a little crazy.
So I had the great opportunity to meet with all these coordinators last spring to do an interview with them for an article for the Tidings in the Ashland Culture Piece column. And what I heard from them was that about a half dozen years ago, there was usually maybe a dozen guests per night. And this past year, there was at least 4 times as many guests, like 4 dozen guests. And what I heard from them was that what really kept Bob, and it was Alan, now it's Peter, and John and Sharon and Vanessa, and all coming back, was to be able to really get to know these people, as you've been hearing, to talk with them, especially to listen to them. People that live on the streets feel very invisible. They feel like they're not being noticed, not being seen, and they feel inaudible. That they are people who are often bright, often educated, have lots of experience, they've traveled, and they have a lot to share, and that they don't really have the chance to tell their story. So what I heard is that people that volunteer at the shelters were motivated for many different heart reasons, and one was just to get to know these people. And it was hard when you're overseeing 48 people. And what they asked was that we need more people just to come and listen. So we started a shelter listening program. We started it then, which was 6 weeks before the shelter closed. So we're starting it up again. All it takes is being present and having a heart. Or as someone says, that's why God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we listen more than we speak. I call it bookends. There are the people that are the hosts, and they spend the night. They're there from the kind of 7:30 in the morning to 8 in the morning. 7:30 at night to 8 in the morning. The bookends are the people that come to help with bringing food or serving food in the evening, bringing food or serving food in the morning, helping to set up, helping to clean up. But one of the part of the bookends is just people can come and do more than one thing, but you could come just also to be a shelter listener between 7:30 and 9 in the evening, and that can take place in any or all of the settings.
So to sign up, we have an online Google Doc, and that's how you sign up. On your computer, on the piece of paper, this packet of information I've given you, on page 4, towards the bottom, it says how to sign up. And there's a link, tinyurl.com homeless sign up. And if you put that into your browser, it will take you to the sign-up page. A sample of what you'll see when you go to that link on your computer. It starts with Presbyterian shelter on Mondays, and if you scroll down, it goes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday. And it has lots of different categories of hosts, 1 and 2, and then additional volunteers, helpers, morning helpers, are you bringing food? And you just find the date that you can volunteer for, and you type in your name and your phone number, and that's it. It automatically saves what you type in. And in terms of signing up, there are a few really important things. Some people don't feel comfortable signing up by computer, and you can call either one of the shelter coordinators or myself, and we're happy to sign you up by computer if you're not comfortable doing that yourself. So I have a number of people who just call me once a month and say, put me down for this and this day and this day, and I look online and say, okay, those are available, and write their names in. So if you're more comfortable doing it that way, you're not so familiar with computers and online things, that doesn't need to be a reason for you not to sign up. So I'm more than happy to help. One really important thing is if you've signed up for a night, we're counting on you to be there. It's winter, so it's not unusual for people to get sick. A lot of times people will call me a couple of days beforehand and say, I'm supposed to volunteer on Wednesday, but I have a really bad sore throat now and I don't know if I'll be able to. And I say, thank you very much for letting me know. We'll check in again tomorrow. And if you're still feeling bad, then I'll take your name off and somebody else can sign up. It takes a while to find substitutes. So it's better if you're feeling ill that you let me know in advance so we can start planning who's going to take your place. Even if you're sick or you have an accident at the last minute, that's okay. You just need to call and let us know. Don't send an email because we'll have to replace you very quickly. So that's the most important part of volunteering and signing up in advance is letting me know if you can't be there. We ask you to put your phone number when you sign in, and the only people who see that are the people who have the link to that address. So the reason we ask you to do that is because sometimes we need to call you. It's getting late, you're not there. Oh, I'll look on the sign-up sheet. Oh, it's Susie at XYZ, and they'll call you and say, did something happen? Oh, I forgot, but I'm on my way. Or, I wasn't out of town, or, So try not to let those surprises happen. Those are really hard to deal with when you have 30 or 40 people waiting to get in and you're not there. Whenever the weather is predicted to be 20 degrees or colder, then the city manager will call an emergency shelter, provided that there is a space and 2 hosts, a male and a female, available to provide that oversight. The predicting part is really tricky because you all probably have weather stations and predictions on your phone, and they vary from site to site. So it's kind of difficult to know, to get the exact temperature right. But that's part of the reason we want to have 7 days of shelter, 7 nights of shelter, is so that everything is covered. But for now, it's an imperfect science, and when the weather looks like it's going to be really, really cold, or snowy and windy or icy, then we are likely to have an emergency shelter. And we know that it will only be on Friday or Saturday night because we have shelters every other night. When the emergency shelter is called, the city manager calls me and says, we need to activate an emergency shelter. I then put out an email, or for the first time this year, thanks to Phil in the back, we have a Facebook page. Vanessa also has a Facebook page. What else do we have, Phil? Twitter?
We're going to be doing group texting too, so you get a text message if you have that capability. And then, so you said email, post on the Facebook page, and probably group text.
The other thing I do is if I know who might want to be called for emergency shelter, I have a list of phone numbers. And so usually I put out an email first. We'll also try to do message to your phones, or I'll call you and say, we have an emergency situation for shelter. Are you available? And as soon as I get 2 volunteers, a male and a female, then I let everyone know that it's covered. To host at Pioneer Hall or any of the city-sponsored shelters, you have to have first had a background check. It's really simple. It takes about 3 minutes to do. It's computerized. It used to be fingerprint-based, and now it's just simply using your date of birth. They go on the computer and see if there are any outstanding warrants or felony convictions. So the list of things that they're looking for, they call them red flags, are a conviction of a felony in the last 7 years, conviction of a misdemeanor in the last 3 years, or the applicant is subject of a pending misdemeanor or felony violation investigation. I was just talking to the woman, Kelly, that does the background checks at the police department, and she said, I've never seen such a squeaky clean group of volunteers as you are. So thank you. Many of you in this room that have participated in the shelters before had background checks 3 years ago, some of you even longer ago. So you need to repeat those. If you're not sure what the date was, check with me, because I have a list, and I can let you know whether you're due or not. Yeah.
Did you say that you need to renew it every 2 years?
That's what I was just told yesterday.
Is there costs?
Oh, you need to tell them that you're coming for your background check because you're a shelter volunteer. If you tell them that, they will not charge you. If you don't tell them that, then it's $10. So the city has agreed that it will be free to all our volunteers, so you can take advantage of that. One of the few perks.
I only have a few talking points, so I'm going to hit the talking points real quick, and then I'll try to share just some concepts that I think are important to talk about. So you get to kind of know your Ashland Police Department. Who are the men and women behind badge that wear a uniform, which quite frankly is a bit of a barrier. So I think it's important for you guys to see that my name is Warren Hensman. I happen to be the Deputy Police Chief. I'm not any different from any of you in the crowd. We love serving our community. We're public servants at heart, every single one of us at the APD. So I felt it's very important for me to share our core values that we live and breathe daily, which is a simple acronym, FAIR. And it stands for fairness, accountability, integrity, but most importantly, respect for people. That's huge, right? Without that, you can't get anywhere. So that's your APD. The men and women at APD are really, really good at arresting people. And it's meant to be a joke, because that's what we're paid to do. That's only one thing we're paid to do. We're way, way, way better at solving problems in our community, getting out and being a part of our community, and that's where we excel. So forget about the uniform, forget about the badge, forget about the barriers, we're problem solvers. Are we there when things go wrong? Of course we're there when things go wrong. We're there at 3:30 in the morning, we're there at 3:30 in the afternoon, and we'll be there in 2 minutes or less, hopefully. We're sometimes pretty busy, we can't get there quite that quick. But it's very, very important for me to let you guys know, we, the APD, every man and woman in a uniform, out of a uniform, are here to support you guys in the shelter if you need us. It doesn't always mean you need us because there's a crime happening. You just might need somebody to spitball a scenario, something that might be going on, that might be just a little bit out of your depth at the moment. Did you guys know that you can now text 911?
No.
It's really cool. There's a pamphlet in the back. I said that at the beginning. So grab a pamphlet. You can text 911. You know, bad things happen sometimes, and you might find yourself in a situation where you're having a hard time talking. You might be just a little shell-shocked, and texting 911 might be the thing for you. And it says on this, it gives a couple of who should use 911. Obviously, if you're deaf or hard of hearing, but if you're in a situation in which speaking out loud would be unsafe for the caller, you might want to think about that. Or obviously a medical emergency where the person is incapable of talking, something like that. So grab one of those pamphlets over there. Last year we just kind of talked about, and I'm going to walk around, I get kind of antsy, sorry. So we talked about what's it like to call 911, and I actually had to think about this. I've been a cop for 19 years, and like, oh, how do I articulate this to the community? How do you call 911? But you call 911 clearly on this sheet that I have a handout for. Life-threatening situations, crimes in progress, or situations where you need an officer right now, don't hesitate, call 911. All other incidents, non-emergency incidents, it's over there, 541-776-7206. That's the number to the dispatch center. Give the folks a call, and they'll dial you guys in and get some law enforcement support out there. They are picky, or should I say, they can be difficult sometimes, the dispatch center, because they're going to ask you questions. They don't mean to be difficult, but sometimes you want to just go, get a cop, get a cop, get a cop. But you may have forgotten to say, I am at such and such location. My phone number is. If you didn't know this, or if you do this, I hope you guys knew this, but the Ashland Police Department is one of a small handful of police departments on the West Coast that will allow anybody to walk in the front door with, let's say, a pound of heroin. And they say, I have a pound of heroin and I want help. Most agencies are going to go, great, thanks for the heroin, turn around, you're under arrest, and off to jail you go. And I say that with a little bit of tongue in cheek, because we want people in our community, and I don't care if it's Medford or Town or Phoenix, if you're in need of support, if you have a substance abuse problem, you can walk into the Ashland Police Department and we will hand you a voucher that gives you priority access to the Addictions Recovery Center in Medford. So we recently started this partnership. I have several vouchers that I pass out to the men and women. We've handed out several so far. I can't give you the exact number, but we've already had one person take us up on the offer. We gave them the priority route to the Addiction Recovery Center, and that's just something we do at the APD. So I wanted to share that with you guys because I think it's really important to let you guys know that we really mean what we say. We're not always going to be perfect, and we're going to make mistakes. But please don't let the uniform be a barrier. and give us a chance to share who we are with you, because as I always say, policing is a team effort. I won't say sport, that's kind of how you typically say it, but it's a team effort, and we need everybody in the community to come together if we're gonna make some differences in our community. And I think the APD is a best practice organization, and we need your help to continue to strive for that success.
Yeah, sorry, Vanessa.
I just want to say that one of the things that I hope that you'll all think about is that, you know, we watch the news and we see so much in the world that we can't do anything about. And this is one thing that you can do right here that solves an immediate need, an immediate problem. And so I really hope that you'll be motivated to join us.
And it builds community.
Yes.